In September of 2015, the United States National Archives in Washington admitted for the first time that documents they never knew existed were discovered and have now been released to the general public under the Freedom of Information Act. These documents have been determined to be missing records of Project Grudge, the predecessor to Project Blue Book. Having researched the documents released, the reports dealt directly with the story accounting the unidentified flying object that was seen in 1947 in the town of Roswell, New Mexico, and a subsequent second crash that occurred at another small town called Corona, New Mexico. These events have been refuted since the event took place by the Air Force, Army, General Accounting Office, and military officials. Now for the first time, we have the actual transcripts of these two separate crashes of unidentified flying objects that were seen by numerous residents from Roswell. These documents are not sanitized by those secrecy agencies who would usually black out areas of the documents that contained information considered too classified for the general public to read. What we transcribe will not be from any edited material. It is raw and unedited without any withholding of information. Possibly this is being done on a limited release, and so we wanted to take down the information as soon as possible in the event they retract the release authorization for this material. Case 1,005,872,238 October 3, 1951 Project Grudge's investigation of the Roswell, New Mexico crash of an unidentified flying object on the Brazil Ranch. Deposition was taken from a sergeant who was in the detachment of men who were sent to recover the debris from the crash site. Mac Brazil, the rancher who called the Roswell Air Base shortly after the crash, told the local media about the events surrounding the discovery but have been suppressed since they were broadcast on KFLG radio on August 17, 1947. We contacted the general manager of the station who refused to discuss anything. We asked if there were any records or transcripts of this interview. They declined to answer and took the 5th and 13th Amendments. The deposition has been found among these records from a Sergeant Tom Reynolds, 135th Battalion Roswell Army Base Platoon, who gave his account of what he saw on the Brazil Ranch on August 16, 1947. Here is the transcript of that deposition. Please state your name, rank, and serial number for the record. My name is Tom Reynolds, Sergeant of the 135th Battalion Army Platoon stated at the Roswell Army Base in Roswell, New Mexico. Serial number 265,148,816. Thank you, Sergeant Reynolds. Please tell us what you saw on August 15, 1947, the day you and your men went out to the Brazil Ranch. We were notified by General F.O.I.A. that Mac Brazil had contacted the base and requested someone from the base to come out to investigate a possible aircraft that crashed in a field near his home. We went out to the site, all 125 men and myself, and saw something I never have seen before or since. I tell you, it took about 3 hours to get to his ranch. It was so remote. Please continue, Sergeant. Anyway, we got out there and saw not pieces of an aircraft. We saw wreckage of a kind that was in sections. It was really shiny and bright, like chrome, and reflected the sun so much we had a hard time looking at the debris very much. It hurt our eyes. So we picked up those segments we could with the men I brought out there with and ordered a backhoe from the base to get our really large segments that no one could have gotten back to the base. What was Mr. Brazil's reactions to what you were doing? He said to us, "Don't get hurt trying to pick up that stuff with our bare hands." He showed me some really deep cuts in his hands. This debris was not only shiny and bright, it was sharp too. Some of it was smooth but other segments were sharp, like where it had come apart or been blown apart. It was really sharp. Anyway, they took some smaller segments to the Army hospital in an ambulance to make it look like some wounded men were being taken in for injuries. Did these segments look like all the rest you saw? No, these were different because the CO said they wanted these separated from the other wreckage because it was really damaged looking. Like, you knew there was a lot of heat that damaged this section because it was blue-purple in color, excessive heat exposure. You know, tell us, Sergeant. What did you think this wreckage was? Did you believe it was an aircraft? No, I did not, because I've seen many aircraft on the base and I have never seen anything like this. The configuration of this vessel was like nothing a human being could have fabricated. It was so clean in appearance and the parts that you feel were so smooth. It wasn't metal to me. Did you see any casualties at the site? I don't know if I should answer because I had to sign an oath of secrecy for what I saw there. Up to now, They said this was all being published in the papers and we could talk about that but not anything else. Sergeant, this is a direct order of the United States Army Command and any oath you took was not under our guidelines, so talk. That's an order. Yes sir. We saw it for small people-like bodies on the ground. And what do you mean by people-like? Just that, people in appearance, but not like us. They were kind of like small, silhouetted or contour bodies but not with our features, if you know what I mean. Go on Sergeant. They were not moving so I figured they must have been dead, I guess. I had a job to do and I was going to do it, no matter what I saw or what I felt. That's good Sergeant, doing what you're told is what we have trained you to do. Don't ask and don't talk. Please go on. Well, we got the debris up and on the truck, in the ambulance, and on the semi-truck and off they went. I guess they went back to the base but I didn't go with them so I don't know about that, sir. What happened then? It was almost dark and we got back in the truck to return to the base. We got back to the base about midnight I would say. We were bushed and got some chow at the canteen. Tell us Sergeant, when you got back to the base did you see any indication that the wreckage was anywhere on the base? Did you see any activities like they were taking anything off the base? No. I know I was hungry and wanted to get to bed when we finished eating but I never saw anything else of that wreckage after seeing on that ranch. One more question, Sergeant. How do you think this aircraft wound up on Mr. Brazel's ranch? Well, it's funny you ask that because I have a friend who works at the Walker Air Force Base and he told me that the day we went out to that ranch, he saw and heard reports that they had shot something down, but they didn't know if it was ours or someone else's. They claimed it was friendly fire during manned UFOs but I don't buy that. What we saw on that ranch proves to me that something else happened and this thing came down on Brazel's ranch, that's what I think. We've checked into that and they say it never happened. Sergeant, hey, I'm just telling you what he told me. You want to know the truth, don't you? I don't think we have any more questions Sergeant. Thank you for your cooperation. Please remember this. Your oath of secrecy is between you and whoever made you sign that document. It wasn't us. You got it Sergeant? Yes sir, my mouth is closed to everything we've just said today. Project Grudge's second investigation of the Roswell, New Mexico crash of an unidentified flying object was conducted after 5 years and gave an overview of pertinent facts surrounding the craft that crashed in Corona, New Mexico. This investigation was much more detailed because witnesses remembered seeing a living being at the crash site and the deposition taken was so detailed that it was incredible. This document has even been released by the National Archives. Case 823,386 July 9, 1955. This second report of the facts surrounding an alleged UFO crash in Roswell centers around a second town that is near the first where another craft was found, this time almost completely intact. This second sighting involved a group of hikers who were out in the desert searching for artifacts of ancient Indian tribes and came across a cylindrical object buried half into a ravine. The object was shiny and metallic in color and witnesses said they saw 4 bodies, one that was standing and walking around the crash site. We tried to contact these eyewitnesses but were unsuccessful. We identified most of the facts by researching the public archives in Roswell's local newspaper. Some witnesses who saw the first crash also told us about this second event. Then, on December 4, 1954, we heard from an officer who claimed he was at the crash site with other enlisted men who were sent to rope off the area from spectators or other persons who were already on site. His name is Lieutenant Floyd Ogletree. He is with the 33rd Regiment in Omaha, Nebraska now but was stationed in 1947 at the Walter Air Force Base. We asked if he would be willing to make a deposition of what he remembers seeing that day in Corona. He said he would be willing, as long as no one else found out other than us putting this in our report, so he agreed. Here is that deposition made December 18, 1954. Please give us your name, rank, and serial number please. My name is Floyd Ogletree, Lieutenant, 33rd Regiment in Omaha, Nebraska at the F.O.I.A Air Force Base Detachment for SAC the Strategic Air Command HQ. My serial number is 24315 6377. Thank you for coming today, Lieutenant. We would like to find out what memories you have about the day you saw an unidentified flying object in Corona, New Mexico about August 16, 1947. Can you tell us anything you remember about it? Well, we heard on the news that Roswell had a possible recovery of a flying saucer and our base wasn't involved with it because Roswell Army Base had gotten all pertinent facts from Mr. Mac Brazel. But, within 24 hours as I remember, we got a call from an individual who had returned from the desert outside of Roswell near Corona who saw some kind of aircraft crash and wanted us to know about it. We called the sheriff in Roswell and he said he hadn't heard anything about it, so my CO General James Anderson sent a detachment of men out to the approximate place where this man had seen the aircraft. It was in a remote area of the Revon and I saw it gleaming in the sun, so we knew it was the place. As we approached the site, I saw 3 bodies lying on the ground and a 4th figure who was standing and walking around. It wasn't a human being because it was too small to be a child and didn't have any features like a human being. We also saw a group of hikers who were standing near this figure and we called out to them to move away immediately. Did you see anyone else around the craft, Lieutenant? No, the object seemed to be smoldering around a large gash in the center of the vessel. I saw that the 3 bodies were lying directly under the object and the 4th figure was there too, like they were trying to use the shade from the object to get relief from the heat. To me, I thought it looked like the kind of force field around that part of the object because the figures seemed wispy or translucent. What did your detachment do next? I told the men to keep the civilians back at a safe distance from the ship while I attempted to communicate with the figure and to look closer at the object. I was able to look directly into the gash of the vessel itself and saw many types of instrumentation but nothing else but that. Then I began to realize that someone was talking to me, but no one was near me enough to say anything. I looked at the figure to see if it had spoken, but no, there wasn't much of a mouth to talk with. I hear the voice again and looked at the creature as if I knew at that moment it was talking to me. I saw in its eyes that it was trying to convey something to me telepathically, at least that's how I felt then. Did it use its hands to communicate with you? No, it just stood there looking at me. But you knew it was talking by its movements and eye gestures. It was kind of scary to see this thing looking at me and me not being able to communicate back by mouth. Anyway, did it say who they were and where they came from? I got only the impression it was from another galaxy and that they came to Earth with another vessel that also crashed. I got that clearly, but that's all I could pick up from the communication they were sending me. What happened then? Several other trucks from the base arrived by then and yelled out for me to get away from the object, so I did. Then I saw that General Anderson was there and walked up to the creature. I waited about 30 minutes until the general came back to where we all were and said he would be taking the creature and buddies back to the base with him. We asked about the object. He said arrangements would be made to transport it to the base at a later time. Then we all loaded up in the truck and left to go back. How were the civilians handled since they had seen the object and creatures you mentioned? The general told everyone, even the civilians themselves, one thing I'll never forget. He said, "This is a forbidden subject. No one here is to say anything about what you've seen or heard. Do I make that clear? You were never here." Some civilians said they would cooperate while others said this was too important for the military to keep a lid on this. The general responded with, "If you open your mouth one more time, you'll never be seen again." That was the last I heard from anyone. Did you ever sign any oath of secrecy about this experience, Lieutenant? Yes, the general called everyone who was sent or knew about the encounter and made us sign oaths of secrecy. He said if we ever told anyone about this, we wouldn't be talking again. That's how he put it. Why did you break your oath then? Because I felt like the civilians did. This is too important to keep a lid on. Everyone in the world should know this happened. Yet, I didn't say anything afterwards because I had just joined the Air Force and wanted to stay, so that was the end of Corona for me. I didn't think about it anymore. Did you ever see the object or the creatures again? No, after we came back to the base we went on as normal with routine manned UFOs. A few weeks afterwards, I saw a large flatbed truck come through the gates with a tarp over something, but I couldn't figure what it was. It was large like that saucer, but I never saw it, so I can't say for sure what it was. They took it to the hangar and that was the last time I saw it. Maybe they took it out after dark so no one would see it again. I never did myself after that. Those creatures, who knows? It's still a mystery to me even now. The conclusions of the investigation are inconclusive because only one witness could be found to corroborate the event itself. We feel more research should be done to determine if any other evidence exists. End of report.